Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to cover harmonization first. So I'm going to flip back, a little too far, to When the Saints Go Marching In. Now, if you have extra time this week and you want more practice with this, I would highly suggest doing everything that's around it. So the minuet, lullaby, Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, all of those, and the transpositions to get more practice. They don't have one listed for minuet in G major. You can pick the key of whatever you do. So just as a reminder to cover it before we start, and most of you have known that are really good at this, but for some it's taking a little bit to sink in. When you have a transposition, you need to, first of all, I would highly suggest playing through, figuring it out in the key before you even attempt the transposition, because it's going to be a lot more difficult to do the sight transposition. Eventually, hoping to get there, but for right now, I really want you guys to do the original version first, and almost all of you have, it seems. So, when you're looking at the transposition, figure out first, of course, the key that you're in. So when the Saints Go Marching In, we've got F sharp, D sharp. We are clearly in D major, especially when you look at what 1 is right there. So then you look down at the little arrow, see, transposed to E major. So that means that our tonic chord, we're going to have to shift up from 1 to find our next tonic. So this is our tonic. If we're transposing to E major, our bottom note has to be E major. We have to start on that, okay? And then we build since we're in major key, we build the major chord above it. That'll be our new major 1. So just a reminder, D major, we have to go up to E major, okay? So, if you decide to do another key beside E major, that is completely fine, but I have to be able to tell what key you are in. So make sure that you think through the key signature before you begin, and if you're having trouble with transposing the right hand melody, then go ahead and write notes in, okay? Just like right above it. So for example, for the first measure of this, you can take your pencil. You can't really see my book. I'm filming on my phone. It's a little bit weird this week, but you would write E over the first note because we have tonic and original key. We're going to transpose it, and then we're going to follow the same half step. So G sharp for the next note, A, etc. We'll cover that a little bit more after we get into it, okay? But first of all, let's take a look at how to harmonize this, okay? So in the instructions it says, using tonic 1, dominant 5/7 or 5/6/5, and subdominant 4 or 4/6/4 chords, harmonize the following melodies with the indicated accompaniment style. In the first example, write the Roman numeral name of each chord in the line below the staff, and obviously in the other two, they have stuff written in for you. But I want to make sure that we can write in our chords and everything. So, we've talked about this before. With tonic, and write yourself a note if you have trouble remembering this. You put a 1. We are looking for scale degrees 1, 3, and 5. So in D major, D, F sharp, and A. Okay? 4. We're looking for scale degrees 4, 6, and then 1. Or you can put 1, 6, 4. So in E major, a 4 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to have to be A major. So A is scale degree 4, C sharp is scale degree 6, and 1 is E, of course. Okay? And then 5/7, or whatever you decide to do. We're going to find scale degree 5 in D major, rather. I skipped to E major because I've got the transpositions backwards in my head, but the same thing applies. 4 in D major is going to be G, B, and D. Okay? So, back, we are in D major for right now. My brain is getting ahead of itself. Excuse me. 5/7 is going to be A, C sharp, E, and then G. Not G sharp, otherwise that makes it's a major chord, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. We want that minor 7 to make tension so that we can resolve back to 1. So in this case, we do have 1. We have that E in there. And then, or we don't have 1, rather, we have 5, 7, 2, and then we also have 4 in there, okay? So if you see a 4, you're going to have to look for the notes around it. If you have scale degree 6, then you're going to want to put a 4 chord there, because the 5-7 chord is not going to make a ton of sense. But if you have 4 and then you see 2 and 7, then you're going to lean more towards the 5-7 chord. Okay? And 3, of course, determines the 1 chord. Now, there are times when 1 and 5-7 could go either way, so you're going to have to look around it. But let's take a look through this. First, let's take a break from that sight reader through the right hand, okay? So remember C sharp and F sharp. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, pretty easy. If you can get it to go faster, great. If not, then that's actually a pretty good tempo for the final product anyways. So now let's take a look at what we've got. We should start with tonic. I know it's a little bit ambiguous on that second beat, or not on that second beat, on that second measure, because we just have an A. But look around at what comes right before it and right after it. And then the same thing for the second measure. Sorry about that. Okay? We have to set up tonic. There might be some, and especially when you think about the song, when the Saints go marching in, you're always playing a tonic chord. It'd be very weird to start with a 5-7, so steer clear of that. Okay? Then we have kind of the same pattern. So we should have 1 all the way actually until measure 7. That is our first instance of a 5-7 chord, because we have 2. 2 doesn't belong to any other chord. 2 in this case being E. Okay? Then we're going to hold that until the next measure, because we do have F sharp, but we still have that E reappearing, and that creates extra tension. So then measure 8, we've got a 1 in there as well. Same thing for the next couple of measures, because we've got 3 and 5. 3 does not fit into any other chord. Okay? Now, looking at the next measure, you might be wondering, when the heck are we going to actually use a 4 chord? We are going to use one right now because we have our first instance of 4. And we've had so much 5-7 recently, we want to take a break. Okay? If you play this with, let me back up and start at measure 9. It just doesn't sound quite right. So that will be the time for the 4 chord to shine. Okay? So, next measure after that, so measure 13, another one we're going to resolve. We would go to 5-7 if we didn't have 3, more than likely, after a 4 chord, but in this case, we do so. And then D is going to be 1, E has got to be a 5-7 chord, and then of course we have to end on tonic. Okay? So, what I would suggest, as you're getting comfortable with those left-hand chords, practice just going back and forth between them and finding inversions. Okay? Some people who are kind of getting the gist of it had a lot of trouble just moving in between chords and then lining the hands up. So you want to make sure that you start with your left hand and make sure that that is as secure as possible. Right hand is easy enough in this example. Spend most of your time focusing on your left hand if it's a little bit of a struggle for you to line up the hands together. So, of course, we want to root position 1 chord. Now, the only other chords we have are 5 and 5-7. So, what you can do, keep 1 on A, 2 on G, half step to C sharp. We've got to get that leading tone right in there. Oops. Okay, so with that we don't have the E in there, but what we do have is 7, 4, and 5, which is going to make up a 5-7 chord. So first, let's practice going back and forth between those like 3 times. Okay, and you get the gist. Now the 4 chord with G major chord, but if we just look, we have D, G, and B right here. Okay? So all you need to do, don't even have to move your second finger, but move your thumb up and get B. Okay? Alright, so looking at my time right now, I went way over what I wanted to, but I really wanted to hammer in this harmonization. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to save the transposition for another video. Okay? So let's go ahead and put these together. We can use this as a final check-in. Okay? Okay, so I'll stop this video right now. Make sure that you have got this version solidly locked in before you watch the video on the transposition, okay?